Okay, so hello everybody and welcome. I'm Raabia Shafi and welcome to episode 12 of Legit Leadership Live. I am so excited right now to have our awesome guest here, Julia Pimsleur. Welcome to the party.
Woohoo! Can't wait for
Yeah.
this. Thanks, Robbie. I woke up this morning. I was like, we're going to have so much fun today on leadership, legit leadership. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so delighted. And just a kind of quick heads up for everybody out there. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from around the world. It's awesome to have you. And the reason why we started this program was to have amazing conversations with these really cool leaders across all industries to kind of learn what happens behind the scenes. Like, how do we make sure that we are showing up as the leaders that we always wish we had? So I'm happy to have Julia Pimsleur here. And for those of you who know Julia and those of you who don't, what I would say is get your notepad out, buckle up, and get ready because this woman is a firecracker in the best way.
You're
So
amazing. Thank you. And I want to give a big shout out to you because you've been doing some great shows on here. I've gotten to watch several of them. Love it. And I'm always
thank
grateful
you.
to Nkrumah, our mutual friend who introduced us.
Yes.
So
Loving
you've
it.
helped so many people with their mindset, and we love talking about mindset. So let's dig
Totally.
in.
Let's dig in. Thank you very much for that. And yes, big shout out to Nkrumah, one of my absolute favorite people in the world. So
Amazing.
Julia, as we dive in, can you give folks a kind of quick bio of who you are? What are you passionate about? And yeah, what do we need to know about you so we can kind of get into the convo?
Yeah, well, I think I'd start by saying I'm probably the least woo-woo mindset person you'll ever meet. I'm a mindset expert, but I came to that through the business world because I'm on my fourth business now. Four, let's see if I can get that in the camera. And for each of my reinventions, I had to have such mindset, fortitude in order to reinvent myself, in order to come up with a whole new set of goals and dreams, in some cases to overcome really big setbacks. And I started studying what do successful people do from a mindset perspective that helps them reach their business goals. And
Yeah.
that's how I became interested in that intersection. But I think you and I met because of my, what are we now, fourth career, which is $1 million women, that I've been helping women business owners to reach the $1 million in revenues mark for the last 5 years through my social venture, $1 million women. And so much of what women need help with is mindset. So
Yeah.
while the two seem very separate, being a scaling coach and being a mindset expert, they're actually very intertwined. And I'm sure we'll get into that today.
Yeah, and and thank you for that and creating time in your day to be here. And one of the things that like on that note, right? Let's go ahead and dive in. What is the intertwining? What's the connection you've seen and kind of lived and breathed between mindset and growing business? Like how do you see those two related?
Yeah, I mean, we've helped thousands of women at $1 million women to grow their businesses. And what we've noticed is that women are so smart, so driven, so capable, but we often get in our own way. And that's where the mindset work comes in. And of course, it's not just women. We know plenty of men who are, reading books, going to workshops, working on
Yeah.
themselves in ways so that they can rise to higher levels of leadership. And let's just say it, enjoy life more, right? It's not just about how many zeros are at the end of your revenues or, what kind of a raise did you get? I think if the pandemic revealed one thing, and it revealed many, but one of the big things it revealed is that if you don't have the right mindset, one, life can really throw you way off course, right? The
Yeah.
people who made it through the pandemic in a way where they were still able to contribute and, feed their families and take care of their people were the ones who had strong mindset practices. But in business, we can see that if you don't do this mindset work, and this is men and women, then
Mhm.
you can find yourself, stuck, involved in self-sabotage, going down negative rabbit holes, not challenging yourself to go to that next level. And
Yeah.
that's what gets me excited, is helping people break through. Now, men and women, actually, and gender non-binary people, we're
Yeah.
working with anyone who's got a big mindset challenge and is trying to break through to get to that next level.
Totally. And tell us a little bit about that kind of maybe limiting beliefs or the negative mindset. Like, what role does that play in our brain? I know you're a fan of the neurology as well and kind of the neuroscience behind it. Like, what happens to us when, let's say, the walls are closing in on us and we're like, nothing's going right. Like, what's going on in our brains?
Well, when I studied NLP, neuro linguistic programming, it really helped me to connect the dots between the feelings we have and what's actually happening in our neurology when we have, negative self-talk, or we go down what I call the rabbit hole of, not only is today terrible, but every day is going to be terrible and nothing good will ever happen again. And you know how you can kind of spiral down like that.
Yeah.
So there is in the amygdala, the flight, fight, or freeze instinct comes from the amygdala, which is just, a cluster of neurons at the back of the brain. And that is often what gets triggered when something goes wrong. And you feel like you need to go into this flight, fight, or freeze mode.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, if you have mindset training, you can catch yourself doing that and realize, oh, wait, I don't have, a jaguar chasing me in the jungle, right? This is all left over from old times when we needed to.
Yeah.
Right? We needed to have fight, flight, or freeze. You do need it if you live in New York where we live, because sometimes those taxis come around the corner really quickly.
Sometimes it's not a jaguar, but it's a rat, maybe. So
right, exactly. Or one of those, cars like that looks like it's going to run over your toes coming around the corner.
Exactly.
But in so many cases, we're using it when we don't need to be using it, and it's causing us to, fly out of control in anger, or not raise your voice at a meeting when you actually do need to speak up, or just get stuck in inaction. And those are some things that mindset training can help with. And, you went right to one of the negative things, right? The limiting belief. And I want to unpack that in a minute, but let's just talk about the positive a minute, because, one of the reasons I wrote Go Big Now, my book about mindset, is that when I read mindset books, I love it. Thank you for bringing it. Show and tell.
One of the best ones ever. Yes.
Thank you. And I was so honored to be able to feature some of your work in it too, because like I said, we've had so many great mindset conversations. So look for Raabia. I'm not going to say what page, but you can find her. Let me use her real name. It was awesome. Yes. So one thing that made me write Go Big Now, Raabia, is that I felt like a lot of the mindset books I picked up started from the place of, well, your life is a mess, right? You're not making any money. You're just lying on the couch all day drinking beer. And I thought, well, where are the mindset books for people who actually are doing productive things with their lives, but want to go to the next level, right? Where's that book? And that's what got me excited about writing Go Big Now. But back to the positive, right? So the Go Big Now starts from the place of, you've done some pretty cool things in your life, but you're not done. And you have a whole next level you want to get to. And that's going to require a different mindset. And the Go Big mindset is simply a set of beliefs that allows you to stay positive, overcome any obstacle, and reach your goals. And I'll say that again, because this solves, 90% of the issues.
90% of the issues,
right? Yeah. If you can just stay positive, overcome any obstacle, and reach your goals, that's what most ambitious people are trying to do. And yet there's never been a roadmap from a mindset perspective. There are a lot of business coaches, but unless you were going to go to all the workshops and read all the books and do all the trainings and fly to Australia like I did to get trained in NLP, right? This stuff was not readily accessible. And that's really what I was trying to achieve with the book, is make mindset tools accessible.
Yeah. And Julia, I have to say, one of the reasons why I feel you and I connected literally within moments, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that we know one another, because I know I've done a lot of and I know I've done a lot of mindset work as well. And it's kind of like, you just have to stay positive and believe in yourself. But your approach is very practical, and you make things accessible. And I wanted to just ask you if you can dive in for a moment, like, how did you organize this book? And I know I was one of the lucky early readers of it, but if you can kind of talk about the keys and why you took that approach, that would be, I think that would be interesting.
And you helped so much, Raabia, really, having partners, anyone writing a book who's watching, having, friends, especially smart friends like you who can go through and help you, fine tune things. I'm super grateful for your help with Go Big Now.
Totally. Thank you.
Yeah. And, I think with the format, I was a big fan of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And that's a classic. And interestingly, one of the few mindset books that most men have on their shelves. Most women have Brene Brown's books on their shelves. Most
Uh-huh.
men can't pronounce her name and don't have their books and tend to have this one book, right? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I love the way Covey organized it into just these 7 simple tools you can use. And many of them are things that are now common parlance, right? Like the win-win or sharpening the saw. These are things you hear people say that came from that book. So I wanted to take some very complex mindset practices that I've learned through some of the master teachers in mindset, and some of which I created through my own work coaching, and give them really simple, easy names so that anyone can use them and also share them. You know, if you're watching now and you're working with a team and you ever walked out of a meeting thinking, wow, I just totally self-sabotaged myself in that meeting. Or maybe my work buddy who I adore just self-sabotaged themselves, but I don't really have the language to talk about that, either to get help or to help my colleague. These are some tools that people are starting to use now to discuss what does it mean to have a limiting belief? You know, how do you mind the gap? What does it mean to take the donuts? And we can get into any of the that you want. But that was the driving force, is just make mindset practice simple, accessible, and usable for business people.
Totally, totally. And you know, I have to say the two, and there's so many things that you have done and that you speak about, whether it was in this book or even before when we met, that really have stuck with me. And one of the principles is what could go right. And I know we talk about limiting beliefs in our brain because of the amygdala hijack kind of runs in the other direction, you know, and maybe we have negativity bias and a lot of these things. Can you just kind of walk us through briefly what could go right and why you're an advocate of that?
Yeah, that's a tool we use a lot in my community at $1 Million Women. And many people have found that's so effective when you're in a situation where you're assuming things are going to get worse and worse. And everybody does this, right? One thing goes wrong, you get one email saying, oh, we need to meet about this project. And suddenly your brain is just off and running into, it's going to get canceled. They're going to take away my budget. I'm going to get fired, right? We've all been there where your brain just goes crazy, taking you down that negative rabbit hole. And I think a big aha for people reading a mindset book of any kind is to realize everyone does this, right? Often people think, well, that's just me. You know, I guess I over dramatize or something, but our brains are actually hardwired to look for the negative. It's like a survival thing, right? We're just like scanning the landscape, like what could go wrong? But what we're not trained to do is to think about what could go right. And this is where mindset training comes in. When you've had this mindset training, it's not just about, oh, stay positive, be happy. You know, no, that's not what it's about at all. It's about catching yourself right as you start to go down that rabbit hole and say, you know what, I don't actually have all the information. Why don't I not react until I have all the information? And furthermore, why don't I refocus my attention on what could go right? So if you're watching and you'd like to just have a tool you can use right away, right after, you know, you get off this live with us, although please stick around. We're going to take some questions, I think, on a day where things seem like, boy, nothing could go worse than today, right? I just opened the mail. The IRS says I owe them $28,000. My business partner just embezzled from me. My girlfriend just left me, whatever it is. Take out a piece of paper or open your journal and write in big letters at the top, what could go right? And then you make a list of 10 things. Really challenge yourself to get to 10, right? Okay, this email I got, it could just mean that they want to talk to me about the annual holiday party. Or maybe I'll lose this job, but I'll find one I love so much more. Or maybe the girlfriend who left me, it was good riddance because you know what? We were not very values aligned and she wanted to live in California and I don't want to live in California. Right? Just really to go down that list and think about what are the great things that could happen. And you'll find it completely reorients you and starts to bring some of those things into your world. Have you done that one, Raabia, you yourself?
Oh my gosh, I have to push myself to do that. And I will tell you, Julia, I did it a few times, especially during the pandemic, which, I mean, talk about serendipity. Like you and I met, I think it was Galentine's Day. You know, you were launching something for $1 Million Women, the community. And that was in 2020, literally like maybe a week before.
Right before. That was our last live event. Like for 2 years. We're having a holiday party this week. We're very excited because we haven't,
totally excited.
But yes, you came to that event. I remember.
I came to that event, and I remember you and I spoke afterward because I was really interested in some of the master classes, and also kind of joining the community. And that was something that you and I spoke about also throughout the pandemic, because like many business owners, small and large, I mean, that threw us for a loop and is continuing to do so. And it's really, as it can be isolating being a single woman who is a solopreneur. I partner with some folks here and there, but usually it's just me, like 99% of the time. And our brain can kind of spiral like, oh my gosh,
Right.
this
We don't have
pandemic.
anyone to bounce things off of, or, just wonder,
Exactly.
well, what if things don't work out? And we're so thrilled you joined the community. You've been such an active member, and we love having you in Million Dollar Women. And you're not
Yeah.
alone in that, right? Every entrepreneur goes through these incredible ups and downs. And
Yeah.
what do you do in the times when it's not going well? Part of what got me excited about this mindset work is that when I look out at the people we look up to, right? The Sarah Blakeleys and the Elon Musks and the Richard Bransons and whoever you
Yeah.
admire, right? We don't get to hear about, well, what did they do when everything was falling apart? And yet they all
Exactly.
had those moments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was really curious about, well, what do you do in the down times, right? We all know what
Mhm.
happens in the up times, right? You hire people, you raise money.
Yeah.
Like when things are going great, we can kind of figure that out. But what do
Totally.
successful people do when things
Yeah.
are not going well? And you and
When
I have
they're
had
not
so many
going well.
great talks about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find myself leaning on that tool, like kind of making myself do it, because you have to create space in your brain for those things. So that's
Well, and
been
that's
very
part of going down the rabbit hole, isn't it? Is not even wanting to do things like that, because there is
exactly.
something a little gratifying, right, about wallowing. I'll
Yeah.
be the first to admit it, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
okay, well, everything's terrible, and I'll just go have
Yeah.
another glass of wine or whatever we all did to get through the pandemic. But
Totally.
if you
Yeah.
can catch yourself and just say, you know what, this is just my mind playing tricks on me. I don't have to be part of this. And you
Yeah.
mentioned the pandemic. Interestingly, I started writing Go Big Now well before the pandemic, and didn't
Mhm.
realize that the entire world would get the greatest possible mindset test, right? That
Oh
anyone, you
my
couldn't
gosh.
even make up a mindset test that weird, right? Let's
No.
lock everyone in their homes across the planet and have ambulances
Exactly.
going by their windows with, people dying and being rushed to the hospital, and see how they do with that.
Yeah, see how you do with that. Oh, by the way, and try to keep your business going and alive too. Yeah, it's kind
Yes.
of insane.
And you and I
Um,
know that women, small business owners, were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. So we had
Absolutely.
millions of women, who had to shutter their businesses and lost so much in revenues. And, we were just
Yes.
trying to help as many people as we could during the pandemic. But ultimately, it made us realize, we actually changed business models because we wanted to help more women. There are 14 million women who have
Yeah,
businesses in America, and
that's
very, very
incredible.
few of them, are scaling up. So you and I have talked a lot about that. How can we change that? It's part
Yeah.
mindset, and it's part just getting access to skills and coaching and mentorship too.
Absolutely. And Julia, that's something I wanted to ask you about, because I know obviously you're very, very passionate about helping women business owners and also women of color business owners as well, like as a particular niche. Can you share with us a little bit about I mean, you said 14 million women across the US. What's the risk for us as consumers and just like a country in not investing in those businesses and not kind of voting with our dollars? Why should we do that, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were able to help a million more women, and why not all 14 million, but let's start with a million women
Yeah.
to generate just 1 million in revenues each. Because right now, fewer than 3% of women entrepreneurs generate a million in revenues. And for women of color, it's fewer than 1%. And those
Yeah.
stats are so changeable. The fact is that we haven't had the same access to business coaching, mentorship, role models, capital
Mhm.
that our brothers have, our brother entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
we're playing a lot of catch up there. So if we could unlock that potential revenue, not only for the women and their families and their teams, but for the
Mhm.
economy, that would be
Yeah.
another 1.7 trillion that we would add to our economy. I mean, if
That's
you took
incredible.
all the revenues of women business owners, like what we generate in collective revenue, we would be the fifth largest country in the world.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
We are generating so
Wow.
much revenue for our country. Women entrepreneurs around the world are making
Yes.
huge difference in the economy, but there's so much more we could be contributing with the right, coaching, mentorship, and capital and community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I think one of the questions I know we're kind of getting to the close of our conversation that went by so fast, but I was
I
going
knew
to
it
ask
would.
you. Yeah, I was going to ask you to kind of help to close things out. When you think of, the target audience for Legit Leadership Live it includes business owners, women business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as leaders across different industries. And I know that you've cast a wide net in terms of your target audience, because it's not just women business leaders who need to, not even need to, but who could benefit from this mindset work. So as we enter 2022, and we're the last few weeks left of this year, which is crazy how quickly that went. What is something that you would like to offer up to our audience, or something that we can use to help us kind of look to the future next year and kind of set ourselves up for success from a mindset perspective?
Well, I think that the setting go big goals and figuring out how to rewrite your story to reach them is probably the most valuable tool that people could use of my 8 mindset tools that I taught in the book going into
Mm,
2022. Because, we tend to keep ourselves small by not daring to dream, the bigger version, right, of our lives. And so it
mm,
starts with saying, okay, what is the goal? What is what I want? And I think the pandemic did, you know, release a lot of people from that small thinking, because it was like, oh, well, if I'm going to die, right, or if we're all at risk, then
yeah,
maybe I better
life is
just go
short.
for it. But that's
Yeah.
just step one. I always like to say that, the just do it from Nike, that's about 10% of success. Right?
Mm,
Just do it
mhm.
is like, okay, you got off the starting block. But the other 90% of getting to success is having the right mindset practices and network and skill set, of course. But the mindset practices come first. That's the foundation on which you build your mansion. And so,
Mhm.
if people want to do some mindset work now going into the end of the year and getting ready for 2022, setting some really big, exciting intentions, I
Yeah.
would just cut right to the chapter in my book about setting your go big goal and rewriting your story, because we don't
Mm,
realize that we're stuck in stories that we didn't even write, right? Stories that our parents wrote,
narratives.
stories,
Yep.
right, that society
Mhm.
wrote for us. I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of Daniel Pink, and he's coming out with a new book about
Yeah.
regrets. And he talked to millions of people around the world. And I was fascinated to learn that the number one regret that people have at the end of their lives is not, surprise, I didn't make more money, right? Or I never went to Vegas. I don't know what else it could be. The number one regret was,
Yeah.
I didn't live the life that I wanted to live. I lived the life that other people wanted me to live.
Wow. That's very powerful. Yeah.
Right? So let's not have that happen to us. If you're watching right now, maybe this is your moment to realize, maybe I'm not doing all the things I wanted to do. And how can we make that change for 2022 and get the tools to do that? Because Robbie and I both know, we've both, struck out as entrepreneurs and doing big, challenging things. You have to have these mindset practices in your back pocket for
Totally.
setting the goals and staying on track and staying positive.
Totally. I love that, Julia. And on that note, can you just share with our audience here, what does it mean to take the donuts? Because that's one of your principles that I
Oh,
just
yes.
really,
We
really
promise you
appreciate.
we can't take the donuts. So, the flip side of being an ambitious person is
Hmm.
often that we're terrible at self care. And I'm really on a mission to help more people who are driven and going after big dreams and goals, which I think is probably everybody watching right now. I'm sure that's why they follow you, to also have self care practices. Everything from, taking a bath to taking a vacation to accepting help when it's offered. And take
Yes.
the donuts is just a funny metaphor for that, because there's a story about Henry David Thoreau when he wrote the book Walden. And the book was all about minimalism and, not living anything that ruins the earth, just really staying close to nature and everything. But while he
Yeah.
was writing this book, he had his sister and his mother bringing him baskets of donuts every day so that he could be like super focused on writing this book about, living off the land. And so when it's Thoreau or when it's, Einstein, let's say his wife was bringing him, soup or donuts or whatever, we think, well, of course they're engaged in this big, important work. Of course we have to bring them things. But when it's us, we somehow feel we don't deserve it, that we need to just live in a closet and eat ramen noodles and stay up and work until 3 a.m.
Hair dudes. Yeah, totally.
And just power through. And that doesn't serve anyone. We have to learn how to ask for help, accept help, and let people into our vision and our dreams so that they can help us build it. So that's what Take the Donuts is all about.
That's what it means. What a way to kind of come full circle, right? We can focus on what could go right. We can rewrite the narratives so that those are the stories that we want to have, without regrets moving forward as we continue to get older. And then you don't have to do it on your own, right? It really does take a village. And so
you would think that goes without saying, but I've seen it over and over again. We both have, right? That successful, ambitious people have a really hard time asking for help. You know who you are if you're listening.
Totally.
So this is permission granted to take the donuts.
Yes, take the donuts. Please enjoy Go Big Now. It is a real delight to read. I also, Julia's previous book, I call myself a Julia junkie, and I really mean it. $1 Million Women as well, not just for women to read. Also, people of all genders, take a look at this on how you can support your fellow kind of sisters, mothers, and aunties and friends make this happen.
Thank you, Raabia. And thanks everybody for joining us. This was so much fun. And I know that everyone is thinking right now about how can I close out the year in a really powerful way and set myself up for success in 2022. So, Raabia has so much wisdom to share with you. And please, if you want some help with mindset, pick up Go Big Now and feel free to reach out to me. I always love hearing from people. And if I can be of help, I'm right here.
I love that. Yes. And you can find Julia on Instagram, on LinkedIn, pretty easily accessible. And thank you so much for your time, Julia. And I'm so excited. I'll see you in a couple of hours for our in-person holiday
That's
get together.
Right. When I'm interviewing someone and then the holiday party. So I get to see a lot of you this week, which makes it a great week. Thank you, Raabia. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yes, absolutely. Bye. Have a great holiday. Thank you, everybody.
You too. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for January. We're going to have a whole slew of new episodes for Legit Leadership Live. And as always, I wanted to just share that I am totally open to different ways of kind of having these conversations or different ideas to make this as useful as possible to you and practical for you. So thank you again. Enjoy the holiday, and I will see you back in 2022. Take care, everybody. Bye.